Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I bring them in. Tim Luke and Greg Schramm, the appraisal guys, the frickin' frack of Nick and Knack. You find them at tqag.com, Treasure Quest Appraisal Group. And we say good morning to Tim and Greg. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I still have a pile of blown-in insulation out there.
Wow.
That really means
that they didn't ingest any of that stuff, did they?
Well, it's the new blown insulation isn't what it used to be. It's safe. It's safe, but it's still something. I don't think they ingested it. They just kind of scattered it around. Probably wondering when it came in, what the hell is this?
Like, wow, look at this. Play day.
Yes, that's exactly right. Look at that. What button did we push to get this?
Yes. Wow.
Well, anyways. Well, we're on our own, guys. Jill's not here this morning.
Oh, okay. Well.
And we have an interesting story.
Yes, we do.
Art theft and loss of over 30 years. Tell him, Greg. It's a de-kooning, right?
Yeah. We have hang on one second. I just lost my... Can you hear me? I think I just lost my connection.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can't?
No, you're connected.
You're still there.
Okay.
You're plugged in, baby.
I'm plugged in. Well, this was actually a story that just got posted on last week on the 3rd of August about a husband and wife who passed away at different times, but finally
But weren't they school teachers?
They were school teachers, and when the family and the powers that be went through the house for dispersing the items, they discovered that of all of the normal everyday stuff of life things, there was a painting that turned out to be by William de Kooning.
But the interesting thing about that, Greg, is that they had people going through the house, and didn't they? The nephew or something was the executor, and somebody just bought the whole contents of the house for like $2,000, and ended up bringing this painting because and some of the other contents to his shop, and that's when he realized that it was a de Kooning because people were coming in. He said within a day of just having it there were like 5 or 6 people that said, "Wait, that looks real."
Yeah, that looks like a real de Kooning. That looks like the real thing. That's the real. That's.
Come on.
And as it turns out, they had it in their house for over 30 years, and no one ever knew it because they had it behind a door, so that when you would close the door was when you would be able to see it. Turns out that the painting was stolen from the day after Thanksgiving 30 years ago from the University of Arizona Museum of Art in Tucson. And these two unassuming people, no one thought that they would take anything like this. Turns out that they cut it when the museum opened. A person who worked at the museum went in, and these people followed them, and the guard said, "Well, it's time for the museum to open, so I'll just go ahead and let him in." And the wife kept the guard busy while the husband apparently went up and, should we say allegedly, Tim? I think we must say allegedly.
Well, let's say the people matching their description because they're still investigating this, but people that match their description of while the wife was occupying and chatting up the guard, the husband went upstairs, knew exactly where to go, and then immediately came back down, and they left and drove off in a sports car, or drove off in this car.
Now, he didn't have the entire frame and everything. He cut the painting out of the frame and rolled it up.
Right.
Fast forward 30 years, and they were cleaning the house out, and turns out that the painting could be worth $160 million. And the husband died in 2012, and then his wife just died in 2017 at the age of 81. And the painting since has been returned to the museum, but they still can't figure out who, if it was this couple who actually took it. However, it turns out that from the description of the people, it's more than likely that these two people were the instigators and the thieves that actually took this piece. And in their accounts, their bank account, there was over $1 million just in their bank account. And everybody now, authorities are wondering, how did two teachers end up having bank account with in excess of $1 million in it? So the question is,
well, and
I wonder,
traveled to all continents,
right? And they traveled all over the world for 30 years, photographs, hundreds of thousands of photographs of their travels. And when they died, there was over $1 million still in their bank accounts. And so, first question I asked him was, "Gee, how does a teacher have that kind of money set aside, even on retirement?" I'm just wondering if there were other things that were stolen and sold.
Well, right, and that's what we were talking about yesterday when we read this. Is, you just wake up one day, the day after Thanksgiving, and just decide, oh, let's go get that de Kooning. And it was so calm and collected in the way that they did that. It's like, wait, is this the first time, or was there other? And because of that, the story ends with the FBI is still investigating this, and of course they're tight-lipped until they know what's going on. But you just don't know. I mean, there's so many aspects of this story that is interesting. That we do this no matter what. When people call us to go through a house and to take a look at things, you can't just be assuming that, oh, there's going to be nothing, because you have to look at things with a discerning eye and take a look and really kind of go in objectively, so that you are objectively looking and taking things in, because you never know.
So I guess what the FBI will forensically do is go back over their account, see whenever they made a deposit, see if there was an art theft anywhere around that time, probably. Exactly.
And they'll go around that because, similar types of things where if he was so skilled to be able to just cut this piece out of the frame so quickly, that you don't just do that your first time. I don't think so. Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to do that. But if you are under a time limit and so calm and collected and cool, you probably targeted these like college museums or things, because also at that time period they didn't have the cameras. So I'm sure they scoped out some of these places that didn't have. Of course, now the university has all of these alarms and cameras.
But now, what happens? Did the insurance company pay for the loss of that? And now does the school have to pay the insurance company back?
Well, and that's a very good question.
Another interesting question, and that's the one thing that they didn't say about. What they did say is that the museum apparently did not remove the frame from the wall. They've not replaced it with anything. I'm assuming it was because they were hoping that the piece would be found. And when they did find the piece, it was an inch smaller because, of course, they had to cut out of the frame. And so...
But it did match up.
It did match up. Which begs another question. Did they keep the 1 inch that was still attached to the frame, so that now that they've got it back, they can restore the entire painting? Right. So when you see stories like this, stories like this always end up giving you more questions than answers. So I am quite sure that if we as just the general public and novices to how these things are investigated, I'm quite certain if we ask these simple questions, the authorities are all over this like white on rice.
With a lot of other questions. And it would depend if they even had insurance, because this was 30 years ago, and they may have had just blanket insurance, and they may have thought, well, let's not put in a claim because maybe it'll come back. Maybe, they'll find it, because they probably thought that, who's going to hide a de Kooning? We should be able to find it very quickly.
Now, going back to their house, did they display it freely, or did they try to kind of hidden display?
No, it was in their bedroom.
It was in their bedroom behind, and no one would see it, because if anybody ever walked in the bedroom, you had to close the door in order to see the painting.
Right.
Amazing.
Which is another curious thing.
Isn't that amazing? And you just wonder, what? Well, it almost makes you think what else was in their house that could have been mistaken. But maybe they ended up, it's just speculation here, is that they did find other works of art. We're selling them to bankroll some of these trips and to put some money in the bank, but the de Kooning they really liked. And we're going to hold on to this one.
What's great about this story is if the FBI does proper forensics and they can match up other thefts with that, this will make a terrific movie.
It would.
Yes, this would be a great Bosch series. This would be a good Bosch episode.
Yes, because you profile these individuals, and they also were saying that they kept meticulous notes of every day, like what they ate, what they did, like they had these diaries of everything. And they were looking at the day after Thanksgiving, and the page is completely blank. Like there's nothing there, but there's on everything else. So, you just, I don't know. Maybe this was a one-off, because if there were other thefts, maybe they would have had other blank pages, but they don't go into this. The story doesn't go into it, but it would make a really good series.
Now, could they have?
The other point that would be interesting is to do some research on our own and find out how much a de Kooning was worth 30 years ago, because now they're saying that this piece could be worth upwards of $160 million.
Well, his work has continued to go up, though, Greg, since then. So
it would be interesting to find out, because of, as Marshall had asked about the insurance. Well, what would it have been at that point? So, there, like I said, there's more questions being put forth out of this article than there are answers. Interesting story. And the nephew, who was the executor of the estate, the only thing he said at the end was, when they died, they had more than $1 million in their bank account. And according to the nephew, I figured they were just frugal. And he said, but after all, they were just nice people. It was like,
well, I'm sure they were. But wow, there was a whole nother side that people didn't know about. But it's fascinating when stories like this come up, because 30 years that this painting, that people were probably wondering, it's in the black market, it's some billionaire somewhere overseas purchased this. There's so many things that you think about, and here are two unassuming retired school teachers that ended up with this in their house, and that they match the descriptions of of the people that were there. So
amazing. Well, Jill, you missed a good show, Jill. Sorry about that. Okay.
Interesting. Yes, it's an interesting thing.
All right, guys. Well, we are plumb out of time with that mystery story.
Well, there we go. We're going to follow up on that.
We'll follow up on it. Let's find out. All right, guys.
Yes, thanks, this is to be continued.
All right, we'll speak to you guys next week.
Have a good week.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Tim, Luke, and Greg Schramm, the appraisal guys, a frickin' frack of Nick and Knack with Appraise This.